Hi all, I am going to use your data set 1 from chapter 11. So it's your chapter 11 data set 1 if you would like to pause the video and open that up. But we're going to look at how to compute a two-sample t-test in SPSS. So I'm going to use a data set, and basically what that data set is it's looking at two different groups. And let me open it up here for you real quick. It's looking at two different groups. Group 1 was taught using just visuals, and it was a memory test for Alzheimer's patients. So group 1 used just visuals. Group 2 was taught using visuals and an intense verbal rehearsal. So we're going to look at two different variables to see if one group did better than the other necessarily, or if the groups did similarly and that type of thing. So we are just going to run a difference test, meaning a non-directional test, and we want to look at did the group with visuals differ in their memorization from the group that also did the intense verbal rehearsal. So we are going to go over here. I'm going to type some of this here. And we're going to do a 4-step problem like you were taught here earlier using the one sample test. So our state step here is that group one with the visuals differed in memorization from group 2, which also used intense verbal rehearsal. So I'm not making a commitment. I am just saying that there's a difference between the two groups. So that will be my statement. Then I'm going to move on to my plan step. My plan step is going to be my null and my alternative hypothesis. So I'm going to use my pen for that. So for this one, my null, my alternative. So my null step is that the two groups are the same. So I'm going to say the mean of group 1 equals the mean of group 2, meaning that group 1 and group 2 basically memorize the exact same amount. Our alternative hypothesis is that there's a difference, that my mean of group 1 does not equal my mean of group 2, meaning that I would expect a difference to be found. Maybe the verbal rehearsal helped them memorize better, so maybe we're looking to see if group 2 is bigger. But we're not going to specify which direction we're going. We're just going to run a difference test just to see if there actually is a difference between the two. So from here we can go into SPSS and actually run our test. And our test is going to be our solve step. So let me write that in here real quick. So we've got state plan. Now we're going to do our solve step. And that's where you're going to copy and paste your output from SPSS. So if you haven't opened up that data set, go ahead and do so now. So one thing SPS requires us to do is to have a column represent each group. So we need to unstack our. Okay, so what we need to do is click on Analyze, Compare Means, because that is what we are doing, and we're going to do an independent sample t-test because we've got two independent samples. One group does not cause or have an effect on the other group. So you will get a dialog box, something like this. We want to move group into the grouping variables box because that is what we are going to actually group our variable by. And we're going to move our test variable into our memory test in the test variable box because that's what we're actually testing. Our grouping is just going to split them up. So we obviously you see these question marks here under group, and what you need to do is basically define our group. So group 1 is going to be those that are labeled with a 1. Group 2 are those labeled with a 2, which you would think SPSS could do that for you and figure that out, but for some reason they cannot. So you need to divide your groups up into those two groups. So group 1 is labeled with a 1, group 2 is labeled with a 2. And we're doing a 2-sample t-test, so we should only have 2 separate groups. So you'll click continue and make sure yours matches up. And then once you've done that, you can just click OK. I think I messed up my data set here. Just 1 second. Okay, excuse me, ignore that first picture that showed up. I had done some messing around to try to unstack the data earlier, and I think I messed up my data set. So hopefully when you ran the test, this is what you should get. So if you look at this, we've got a lot of different information within these two boxes. The major things we want to look at is our T, which is our T-score, our degrees of freedom, which is our 58. So we've got T of negative 0.137, degrees of freedom of 58, and our significance for our two-tailed test was a 0.891. So that's our p-value, our 0.891, and that's really what we want to look at is our 0.891. So you would want to copy this table here, just the independent samples test. We don't have to worry about this top one because all that gave us was our descriptive stats. So you can copy and paste that into your Word document, just like you did on the other homework assignments. Hopefully it pastes better than mine just did. I'm using a different program, so it's probably not going to work as well here, but I can try it one more time, just so you have a visual. If not, don't worry about it. There we go, that worked better. So that's my solve step. Then, in conclusion, so to conclude, with a p-value 0.891, which is, and then we want to always compare our p-value to 0.05, because as you recall, that's what we are making a comparison to as our alpha 0.05, because we only want our results to happen 5% of the time by chance or less. So since we have a p-value that is obviously much greater than 0.05, we fail to reject the null and can draw no conclusions. I apologize. I think my my program here froze. So in conclusion, since our p-value is so high, we've got a p-value of 0.891, we failed to reject our null and can draw no conclusions, meaning that these results are not significantly different. So we did not find a significant difference between the two. Our results are happening 89.1% of the time by chance, meaning that the null could be counted wrong 89% of the time when it is actually correct. So because we have such a high probability of chance, we really cannot accept our results. So we would just fail to reject our null and really cannot draw any conclusions on the difference.